The council chamber on Velnaris Prime was filled with worried voices. Representatives from 17 different alien species sat around the massive circular table, their forms ranging from crystalline beings that glowed with inner light to aquatic creatures floating in specialized tanks. They had been arguing for 3 hours, and still no solution appeared. High Mediator Keltha struck the resonance plate with his crystalline limb. The sound echoed through the chamber, bringing silence. His body pulsed with a dim orange color, indicating deep concern among his people. "We must face the truth," Keltha said, his voice translating through the chamber's systems into each species' native language. "The Vroth Dominion has taken 43 star systems. They destroyed our defense fleet at Morandal. They shattered our blockade at the Kelly's Gate. In 2 cycles, maybe less, they will reach our core worlds." A Murundi representative, her blue form rippling with agitation inside her water tank, spoke up. "We have sent everything we have. Our shipyards work day and night. Our people volunteer by the millions, but the Vroth are too strong. Their ships have armor we cannot penetrate. Their warriors feel no fear." "They are unstoppable," added a Pralish hive speaker, his insectoid body clicking nervously. "Our scientists studied their biology. They are silicon-based, incredibly resilient. They can survive in environments that would kill most of us, and they have been warriors for their entire history." Kelthas dimmed further, a sign of agreement. The Vroth had appeared 12 years ago from the Galactic Rim. They had no interest in diplomacy or trade. They wanted conquest, pure and simple. Every attempt at peace had been met with plasma fire and boarding parties. "There is one option we have not discussed," Kelthas said slowly. "The humans." The chamber erupted in multiple languages. Some voices expressed hope, others skepticism, and a few outright dismissal. "The humans?" said the Murundi representative. "They only discovered faster-than-light travel 70 years ago. They have been watching us for 30 years but never joined the council. They are primitives. Primitives who learned to split the atom before they left their homeworld," Kelthas countered. "Primitives who had global communication networks before they achieved spaceflight. Primitives whose homeworld, by our standards, is classified as a death world." This gave the council members pause. Death worlds were rare. Planets where evolution was so competitive and dangerous that very few intelligent species emerged from them. Most council species had evolved on peaceful worlds with abundant resources. "What do we know about human military capability?" asked a reptilian Sarthak commander. "Very little," admitted Kelthas. "They keep their military hidden. Our observers report they have several hundred ships, but we have never seen them in combat. Their technology seems adequate but not exceptional. Then what good are they?" demanded the Pralish hive speaker. Kelthas rotated his crystalline form to face the speaker directly. "Because 30 years ago, when our scout first approached Earth's solar system, the humans detected our stealth ship from 4 light hours away and had 3 warships intercept us before we reached their 4th planet. Our stealth technology has worked against every species in the galaxy, including the Vroth, except the humans." The chamber fell silent as this information sank in. "We are desperate," Kelthas continued. "If we do nothing, we will fall. I propose we send a formal request for military assistance to Earth. Let us see what these young warriors can offer." After another hour of debate, the council voted. The decision was narrow, but it passed. A message would be sent to humanity. On Earth, in the city of New Geneva, Ambassador Jiwan received the transmission at 3 in the morning. She read it twice, then immediately called an emergency session of the Terran Assembly. By dawn, every representative of Earth's unified government had gathered. Jiwan stood before the assembly, a holographic display showing the galactic situation behind her. "The Galactic Council requests our military assistance against the Vroth Dominion. They are offering us full membership in the Council and access to their technology databases in exchange for our help." "Why should we help them?" asked Representative Kwangmin from the East Asian sector. "They treated us like children for 30 years. They refused us membership because we were too young as a spacefaring species. Because if the Vroth win, they will eventually reach our space," answered Representative Yon Seo from the American sector. "Our outer colonies are only 8 jumps from Vroth-controlled space. If the council falls, we are next." The debate lasted 3 days. Some argued for isolation, others for limited support, and still others for full military commitment. In the end, the vote came down to a simple truth. Earth could not afford to let the Vroth win. The Assembly authorized military intervention. Commander Tae-sung received his orders while aboard the diplomatic vessel Hanseong, currently in orbit around Mars. He was a career military officer, 45 years old with sharp eyes that missed nothing. He had fought in the Belt conflicts and the Titan Rebellion. He knew war. "You will take the Hanseong to Velnaris Prime," Admiral Hyunwoo told him via secure communication. "Assess the situation. Study the enemy. Report back what we are dealing with. Dr. Yuna will accompany you." Dr. Yuna was Earth's leading xenobiologist, a woman whose gentle appearance hid a razor-sharp mind. She had studied every alien species humanity had encountered. Now she would study the Vroth. The journey to Velnaris Prime took 6 days through hyperspace. Tae-sung spent the time reviewing every piece of intelligence the Council had shared about the Vroth. He watched combat footage, studied tactical reports, and analyzed ship capabilities. What he saw troubled him. The Council fought defensively, always reacting to Vroth movements rather than dictating the battle. Their weapons were designed to disable ships, not destroy them. Their tactics focused on minimizing casualties, even enemy casualties. They treated war like a disagreement to be resolved, not a fight to be won. The Vroth, on the other hand, fought to annihilate. They used overwhelming firepower and numerical superiority. Their ships were mobile fortresses, heavily armored but slow. They relied entirely on brute force. "They are both doing it wrong," Tae-sung muttered to himself. "Who is?" Dr. Yuna asked, looking up from her own research. "The Council and the Vroth. The Council is too gentle. The Vroth are too predictable. A competent military force could exploit both weaknesses." Dr. Yuna smiled slightly. "You mean like Earth's military?" Tae-sung did not answer, but his expression said enough. When the Hanseong arrived at Velnaris Prime, they were immediately escorted to the planet by 3 Council patrol ships. The planet was beautiful, a blue-green world of peaceful oceans and carefully managed cities. It was also terrified. Evacuation transports filled the orbital space, preparing for the worst. Kelthus met them personally at the orbital station. His crystalline form pulsed with cautious hope. "Commander Tae-sung, Dr. Yuna, welcome. Thank you for coming so quickly." "We are here to assess, not commit," Tae-sung said bluntly. "Show us your defensive positions and enemy movements." For the next 2 days, Tae-sung and Yuna reviewed everything. They visited command centers, spoke with surviving ship captains, and examined damaged vessels. Dr. Yuna took biological samples from captured Vroth equipment and even from one deceased Vroth warrior. On the 3rd day, alarms blared across the station. A Vroth assault fleet had been detected entering the system, 300 ships moving in their typical wall formation. The Council defense fleet numbering 200 ships moved to intercept. Tae-sung and Yuna watched from the observation deck as the battle unfolded in the distance, visible only as flashes of light against the black. It was a massacre. The Council ships fired their disable beams and electromagnetic nets, trying to stop the Vroth without destroying them. The Vroth ships simply absorbed the damage with their thick armor and returned fire with devastating plasma cannons. Council ships broke apart, their shields overwhelmed, their hulls melted. In 15 minutes, 50 Council ships were destroyed. The Vroth lost only 3. Dr. Yuna watched with clinical detachment, her scanner recording everything. "Their armor is resistant to energy weapons, but their ships are not maneuverable. And they have almost no point defense systems." Tae-sung nodded slowly, his face unreadable. He watched as another 20 Council ships died, their crews of thousands simply gone. The Council fleet began to retreat, unable to hold the line. Kelthus appeared beside them, his color a deep red of despair. "Now you see what we face. They are unstoppable. Can your people help us?" Tae-sung turned away from the window. He pulled out his communication device and sent an encrypted message to Earth. It was brief, only 1 sentence. "They have no idea what war actually means." He looked at Kelthus and said, "Get me a direct line to Admiral Hyunwoo. Tell him to mobilize the Armada, and tell your Council to prepare their databases for transfer. When we finish this, Earth will have that Council seat." Kelthus pulsed with sudden hope. "You will fight?" "We will do more than fight," Tae-sung said quietly. "We will show the galaxy what humanity learned in 10,000 years of warfare. The Vroth think they are unstoppable? They are about to learn a very hard lesson." Admiral Hyunwoo stood in the command center deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, watching as Earth's military machine came to life. He was 52 years old, gray at the temples with eyes that had seen humanity at its worst and its best. On the screens around him, reports flooded in from every corner of human space. The mobilization had begun. Hyunwoo had spent 30 years preparing for this moment, though he had never known exactly what form it would take. When humanity reached the stars 70 years ago, they had discovered they were not alone. The first contact had been peaceful, but the military strategists of Earth had asked one critical question. What if the next contact was not? So while Earth sent diplomats and scientists to learn from the Galactic Council, they also sent military observers to study how aliens fought wars. What they discovered had been both relieving and concerning. The Council species had been at peace for so long that they had forgotten how to truly fight, but humanity had not forgotten. Humanity could not forget. Lieutenant Sora entered the command center carrying a data tablet. She was 29, brilliant with weapons systems and utterly dedicated to her work. Admiral, the first fleet reports ready for deployment. Second and third fleets will be ready in 18 hours. Good, Hyunwoo said. And the special weapons? Dr. Daehyun confirms all systems are operational. He wants to speak with you personally. Hyunwoo nodded and opened a communication channel. Dr. Daehyun appeared on screen, looking tired but excited. He was 44, head of Earth's advanced weapons research and a genius who sometimes frightened even his colleagues. Admiral, I have good news, Daehyun said. The rail-assisted nuclear missiles tested perfectly. The kinetic bombardment platforms are in position around Jupiter, ready to be deployed to the combat zone, and the EMP bombs are loaded on every ship in the fleet. What about the swarm drones? Hyunwoo asked. Daehyun grinned. 3,000 units per carrier ship. They are smaller than the Council's fighter craft but 10 times more maneuverable, and they are AI coordinated so they can execute complex attack patterns that would be impossible for biological pilots. Hyunwoo allowed himself a small smile. The Council thinks our technology is adequate but not exceptional. They are in for a surprise. Should we tell them what we are bringing? Sora asked. No, Hyunwoo said firmly. Let our actions speak for us. Commander Taesung sent his assessment. The Vroth rely on heavy armor and brute force. The Council fights with restraint and defensive tactics. Both approaches have fatal flaws. We will exploit those flaws. In orbit above Earth, the Terran Armada gathered. 50 dreadnoughts, each 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapon batteries. 200 cruisers fast and deadly designed for hit-and-run attacks. 500 destroyers, the workhorses of the fleet, capable of both ship-to-ship combat and orbital bombardment. And 3,000 fighter craft, each piloted by men and women who had trained for years for this moment. The flagship of the fleet was the Incheon, Hyunwoo's personal command ship. It was a marvel of human engineering. A vessel that could coordinate an entire fleet battle while simultaneously engaging multiple enemy targets. Sora stood at her station on the bridge running final checks on the weapon systems. Captain Minho was not with the main fleet. He commanded the stealth ship Dokdo, a vessel that officially did not exist. While the Council knew Earth had a military, they had no idea about ships like the Dokdo. It was coated in materials that absorbed sensor sweeps, equipped with engines that left no detectable signature, and armed with weapons designed for surgical strikes. Minho was 36, lean and quiet with the patience of a hunter. He had already been in Vroth space for 2 weeks, his ship ghosting through their territory, mapping their positions and studying their behavior. What he learned would give the Terran Armada a crucial advantage. He sent his final report to Admiral Hyunwoo via encrypted quantum communication. The Vroth are predictable. They gather in large fleets, travel in straight lines, and attack head-on. They have no scouts, no reconnaissance. They assume their strength is enough. Their command structure is centralized. Take out the command ship and the entire fleet becomes disorganized. Hyunwoo read the report and felt a surge of confidence. The Vroth were strong, but they fought like ancient armies, relying on shock and mass. Humanity had learned to fight smarter, not just harder. On the Incheon's bridge, Hyunwoo addressed his fleet commanders via holographic conference. 50 faces appeared around him, the best military minds humanity had produced. You all know what we face, Hyunwoo began. The Vroth Dominion has conquered 43 star systems. They have destroyed fleets from 17 different species. The Galactic Council believes they are unstoppable. He paused, letting the weight of those words settle. But the Council has never seen humanity at war. They evolved on peaceful worlds. They have had a few conflicts, small disputes that were resolved with minimal casualties. They do not understand what war really means. Hyunwoo gestured, and a hologram of Earth appeared above the conference table. We come from a death world. For 10,000 years we fought each other. We developed weapons that could destroy our own planet. We created tactics, strategies, and doctrines refined through countless battles. We learned the hard way that in war hesitation means death. The fleet commanders listened intently. They all knew Earth's history. They had studied the great conflicts, from ancient battles fought with bronze swords to the nuclear horror of World War III. The Council fights to disable and contain, Hyunwoo continued. We fight to win. The Vroth fight to conquer through strength. We fight to survive through skill. That is our advantage. He changed the hologram to show the tactical plan. We will not defend. Defense is for those who are weak or unprepared. We are neither. We will attack, and we will not stop attacking until the Vroth sue for peace. We will hit them where they are weak, when they are unprepared, and with weapons they have never seen before. What are our rules of engagement? Asked one of the cruiser captains. Destroy any ship that fires on you or on Council vessels, Hyunwoo said. But if they attempt to surrender, accept it. We are not here to commit genocide. We are here to show strength and restore order. The Vroth respect power. We will give them a demonstration they will never forget. Pilot Jin-ho sat in his fighter, running pre-flight checks for the 100th time. He was 27, cocky but skilled, with more training hours than most Council military officers served in their entire careers. His fighter was small, barely larger than a ground vehicle, but it was fast and deadly. Unlike Council fighters that relied on laser weapons, Jin-ho's fighter carried armor-piercing rockets and a mass-driver cannon that fired solid projectiles at hypersonic speeds. It was designed to punch through heavy armor, exactly the kind the Vroth used. Jin-ho's squadron leader, a veteran named Soo-jin, appeared on his communication screen. Nervous? She asked. Excited, Jin-ho replied honestly. We trained for this. All those simulations, all those exercises. Now we get to see if our tactics really work. They will work, Soo-jin said confidently. The Vroth have never faced coordinated strike craft using kinetic weapons. Their point defense is almost non-existent, because they never needed it. Every Council fighter uses energy weapons that their armor absorbs. We are going to cut through them like a blade through paper. In the troop bays of the dreadnoughts, Colonel Bora addressed her Marines. She was 39, scarred from the belt conflicts and absolutely fearless. Her Marines were equipped with powered armor, plasma cutters, and enough firepower to take a small fortress. We might not see ground combat in this operation, Bora told them. But if we do, remember your training. The Vroth are tough, but they are not invincible. Their warriors are silicon-based, which means they are resistant to heat and radiation. But they are vulnerable to kinetic impact and electrical discharge. Aim for joints and sensory organs. Move fast and stay together. Her Marines listened in silence. They were ready. Across the fleet, similar scenes played out. Engineers checked reactor cores. Gunners calibrated targeting systems. Medical teams prepared for casualties. Supply officers ensured every ship had ammunition and spare parts. The Terran Armada was a machine of war, and every part of that machine was ready to function. Admiral Hyunwoo gave the final order. All ships prepare for hyperspace jump. Destination Kelmar Station. The Council's last stronghold is under attack. We will arrive, we will engage, and we will show the galaxy what humanity brings to war. The fleet began to move, thousands of people working in perfect coordination. The massive dreadnoughts activated their hyperspace drives first, tearing open holes in space-time. Then the cruisers and destroyers followed, disappearing into the swirling vortex. Finally, the fighters entered their carrier bays. And the carriers jumped. In less than 10 minutes, the largest military fleet Earth had ever assembled vanished from Sol System. On Earth, Supreme Chancellor Won-sik watched the departure from his office in New Geneva. He was 58, a former soldier turned statesman, and he understood the weight of the decision they had made. Ambassador Ji-won stood beside him. Do you think we are doing the right thing? She asked quietly. Won-sik considered the question carefully. War is never right, but sometimes it is necessary. The Vroth 7th Assault Fleet moved through space like a predator that had never known fear. 800 warships, each one a fortress of silicon-based armor and plasma weapons. War leader Craxus commanded from the center of the formation, his massive form resting in the command throne of his flagship. Craxus had led the Vroth to victory in 15 systems. He had shattered the Council's defenses at 4 major battles. His warriors respected him, and his enemies feared him. He knew nothing but conquest. Kelmar Station approaches, his sensor officer reported. Council defensive fleet detected. 400 vessels. Craxus made a clicking sound of satisfaction. The Council always gathered their ships in predictable formations. They always tried to create a defensive line, and they always failed. Advance, Craxus ordered. Destroy them all. At Kelmar Station, Council Admiral Velmore watched the approaching Vroth fleet with resignation. He had fought the Vroth before, and survived only by retreating. This time there would be no retreat. Behind him was a planet with 3 billion civilians. His orders were clear. Hold the line or die trying. All ships prepare for combat, Velmore commanded. His fleet moved into position, smaller ships in front to absorb the first strikes, larger ships behind to deliver the main firepower. It was a standard Council defensive formation, and Velmore knew it would not be enough. The Vroth fleet came within weapons range. Craxus gave the order, and 800 ships opened fire simultaneously. The void between the fleets filled with superheated plasma, streams of destructive energy that melted shields and hulls alike. Council ships returned fire with their disable beams and electromagnetic nets, but the Vroth armor absorbed most of the damage. Within minutes, 30 Council ships were destroyed. Then 50. The defensive line began to crumble. Velmore prepared to give the retreat order, hoping to save at least some of his fleet. But before he could speak, every sensor on his ship began screaming alerts, spatial anomalies. Dozens of them. Hundreds of them. All around the system, the Terran Armada emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. 50 dreadnoughts appeared first, massive and dark, their hulls reflecting no light. Then the cruisers materialized, sleek and predatory. The destroyers followed, and finally the carriers, each releasing clouds of fighter craft. On the bridge of the Incheon, Admiral Hyunwoo studied the tactical display. The Vroth fleet was exactly where Captain Minho's intelligence said it would be. Their formation was predictable, their command ship clearly marked by its position and size. All ships combat stations, Hyunwoo said calmly. Target the Vroth fleet. Fire when ready. He did not give warnings. He did not demand surrender. He simply gave the order that humanity had perfected over thousands of years. Attack. The Terran Armada fired. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. The dreadnoughts launched their rail-assisted nuclear missiles. These were not the slow plasma bolts the Council used, nor the predictable energy beams. These were physical objects accelerated to relativistic speeds by electromagnetic rails, each one carrying a nuclear warhead designed to penetrate heavy armor before detonating. The missiles crossed the distance between fleets in seconds. The Vroth sensors detected them too late. Their ships, designed to absorb energy weapons, had no defense against kinetic nuclear impacts. 30 Vroth ships simply ceased to exist. One moment they were there, massive and imposing. The next moment there was only expanding clouds of debris and radiation. Craxus stared at his tactical display in shock. 30 ships gone in the first volley. What weapon is this? He demanded. His sensor officer's voice trembled. Unknown, war leader. The projectiles moved faster than our tracking systems could follow. Return fire. All ships return fire. The Vroth fleet turned its plasma cannons on the Terran ships and fired. Streams of superheated matter crossed the void, enough firepower to melt asteroids. But the Terran ships were already moving. The dreadnoughts were slow, but the cruisers and destroyers danced between the plasma bolts with a grace that seemed impossible for such large vessels. Not a single shot connected. Lieutenant, Sora watched her targeting display on the Incheon's bridge. The Vroth plasma weapons were powerful, but they were slow and predictable. The AI-assisted evasion systems calculated the trajectory of each shot before it was even fired, moving the Terran ships out of the path with milliseconds to spare. Coil guns ready, Sora reported. Target lock on enemy flagship. Fire, Hyunwoo ordered. The Incheon's main weapons were massive electromagnetic coil guns, each one capable of launching tungsten slugs the size of cargo containers at hypersonic speeds. The slugs had no explosive warhead. They did not need one. The kinetic energy alone was devastating. 3 slugs hit Craxus's flagship simultaneously. The first one punched through the forward armor, creating a hole 3 meters wide. The second one hit the ship's midsection, causing catastrophic structural failure. The third one struck near the engines, and the entire rear section of the ship simply broke apart. Craxus felt his ship dying around him. Alarm screamed. Hull breaches vented atmosphere. His warriors, those who survived the impacts, scrambled for emergency suits. The flagship that had led the 7th Assault Fleet to 15 victories was now a dying wreck. All ships scatter. Emergency jump protocols. Craxus ordered before his communication system failed. Pilot Jinho led his squadron toward a Vroth battlecruiser, one of the largest ships in their fleet. His targeting system locked on, and he reviewed the battle plan one more time. Standard Council tactics would have been to hit the ship with laser weapons until the shields failed, but Jinho was not using Council tactics. Squadron form up, he ordered. Attack pattern Delta 7. Aim for the hull breach on the port side. His squadron, 20 fighters strong, dove toward the battlecruiser at maximum speed. The Vroth ship's defensive weapons tried to track them, but the fighters were too fast and too maneuverable. They reached the hull and released their first payload, armor-piercing rockets. The rockets struck the hull and detonated, punching through the Vroth armor. The fighters then used their mass driver cannons, firing solid projectiles through the holes the rockets had created. The projectiles penetrated deep into the ship's interior. Pull back, Jinho ordered. His squadron retreated at maximum acceleration. 5 seconds later, the electromagnetic pulse charges they had deposited inside the battlecruiser detonated. Every electronic system on the ship failed simultaneously. The lights went out. Life support stopped. Weapons went offline. The massive battlecruiser became a dead hulk, drifting helplessly in space. Target neutralized, Jinho reported. Moving to next target. All across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Terran cruisers used hit-and-run tactics, firing salvos of missiles before disappearing behind cover or using their superior speed to evade return fire. Destroyers worked in packs, coordinating their attacks to overwhelm individual Vroth ships. Fighters swarmed larger vessels, exploiting weaknesses the Council had never known existed. The Vroth fleet, used to overwhelming their enemies with brute force, found themselves facing an opponent who refused to fight on their terms. Every time they tried to form up and use their numerical advantage, Terran weapons struck from unexpected angles. Every time they targeted a Terran ship, it was already moving. Council Admiral Velmore watched the battle in stunned disbelief. His fleet had been seconds from destruction. Now the Vroth were the ones dying. "What are these humans?" he whispered. 20 minutes into the battle, Craxus managed to transfer his command to a surviving ship. He studied the tactical display and felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. 200 of his ships were destroyed or disabled. The human fleet had lost nothing. Not a single ship. "War leader, we cannot win this fight," his second-in-command said. "These humans fight like nothing we have encountered. Their weapons are too fast. Their ships are too agile. They are destroying us." Craxus looked at the display showing the human fleet. They fought with precision and efficiency. No wasted movements. No hesitation. Every shot calculated. Every maneuver purposeful. These were not explorers playing at war. These were warriors who had perfected their craft. For the first time in Vroth history, a war leader gave an order that no Vroth had ever given. All ships, retreat. Jump to hyperspace immediately. The surviving Vroth ships, those that still could, activated their hyperspace drives and fled. They left behind the wreckage of 200 ships and thousands of dead warriors. The 7th Assault Fleet, which had never known defeat, ran from battle. Admiral Hyunwoo watched the Vroth ships disappear from his tactical display. "Do not pursue," he ordered. "Let them go." "Sir?" Sora asked in surprise. "We could destroy the rest of them." "We could," Hyunwoo agreed. "But that is not our goal. Our goal is to break their will to fight. Let the survivors return to their empire and tell everyone what they saw here. Let them spread fear." He opened a communication channel to the Council fleet. "Admiral Velmore, this is Admiral Hyunwoo of the Terran Armada. The Vroth threat to Kelmar Station has been eliminated. Your system is secure." Velmore took a moment to respond, still processing what he had witnessed. "Admiral Hyunwoo, Thank you. Your arrival saved millions of lives. But I must ask, how did you achieve such a victory?" The news of the Kelmar Station defeat spread through Vroth space like a shockwave. War leader Craxus stood before Empress Zalkara in the throne room of the Dominion capital. his body language showing submission for the first time in his career. Empress Zalkara was enormous even by Vroth standards. Her silicon-based body was covered in battle scars from 100 campaigns. She had led the Vroth from a single world to a vast empire spanning 43 star systems. She had never known defeat, and she did not accept it now. "You fled," Zalkara said, her voice like grinding stones. "The 7th Assault Fleet, 800 ships fled from a smaller force." "Explain this cowardice," Craxus kept his head lowered. "Empress, these humans are not like the Council species. Their weapons are different. They do not use energy beams that our armor can absorb. They use physical projectiles that move faster than our sensors can track. They destroyed 200 of our ships in 23 minutes. We could not touch them." "Impossible," Zalkara growled. "No species in the galaxy has such technology. You simply failed in your duty. With respect, Empress, I have battle recordings. See for yourself." Zalkara reviewed the recordings in silence. She watched Vroth ships explode from weapons that seemed to come from nowhere. She watched human fighters move with impossible agility. She watched her proud warriors flee in terror. When the recordings ended, she was quiet for a long moment. "These humans," she finally said, "they are a young species. How do they possess such weapons?" "I do not know, Empress, but I recommend we negotiate peace before they attack our core systems." Zalkara's body shifted, a sign of anger. "Peace? The Vroth Dominion does not surrender. We are the strongest species in the galaxy. These humans simply surprised you. Once we adapt to their tactics, we will crush them." She turned to her military council. "Mobilize the 2nd, 4th, and 9th Assault Fleets. 3,000 ships. Send them to the front lines. If the humans want war, we will give them war on a scale they cannot imagine." Craxus wanted to protest but remained silent. He had seen what the humans could do. 3,000 ships would not be enough, but he was a warrior, and warriors followed orders. Meanwhile, Admiral Hyunwoo had no intention of waiting for the Vroth response. He stood in the command center of the Incheon, studying a holographic map of Vroth territory. Captain Minho's reconnaissance had identified dozens of strategic targets: supply depots, shipyards, fuel stations, and command centers. "The Cascade Protocol is now in effect," Hyunwoo announced to his fleet commanders. "We will not wait for the enemy to come to us. We will strike deep into their territory, destroy their infrastructure, and break their ability to wage war." Lieutenant Sora pulled up the target list. "Sir, intelligence shows 3 Vroth assault fleets are staging at the Kelvor system. If we can hit them while they are still assembling, we can prevent them from ever reaching the front lines." "Agreed," Hyunwoo said, "but we will not attack them directly. That is what they expect. Instead, we will destroy their staging areas while they are still vulnerable." He turned to another officer. "Contact Major Taeyong. Tell him I need his special operations team ready for immediate deployment." Major Taeyong was 35, lean and efficient, specializing in operations that officially did not happen. He led a team of 30 operators, men and women who could infiltrate hostile territory, complete their mission, and extract without anyone knowing they were there. "Major, I need you to sabotage Vroth supply depots in 3 different systems," Hyunwoo explained via secure communication. "Fuel storage, ammunition dumps, and shipyards. Use delayed detonation charges. I want everything to explode simultaneously in exactly 72 hours. Taeyong studied the target locations. "That is deep in enemy territory, Admiral. 3 different systems, each one heavily guarded. Can you do it?"
Taeyong smiled.
"Yes, sir. We can do it." Over the next 60 hours, Taeyong's team performed what would later be called one of the most daring operations in military history. Using stealth insertion pods launched from Captain Minho's reconnaissance ships, they infiltrated 3 Vroth systems undetected. The Vroth had no concept of special operations. They guarded their facilities with patrols and sensors designed to detect ships, not small infiltration teams. Taeyong's operators moved through the shadows, planting antimatter charges in critical locations. Fuel tanks, ammunition storage, reactor cores, shipyard supports. Each charge was no larger than a backpack but contained enough antimatter to destroy a city block, and all of them were synchronized to detonate at the same moment. 72 hours after Taeyong began his mission, the charges detonated. 3 different systems, dozens of critical facilities, all destroyed in a coordinated strike. The Vroth 2nd, 4th, and 9th Assault Fleets, which had been preparing to launch, suddenly found themselves without fuel, without ammunition, and without the shipyards needed to repair and rearm. 500 Vroth ships were destroyed before they could even leave their staging areas. Another 1,000 were left stranded, unable to fight without supplies. While the Vroth reeled from this blow, Admiral Hyunwoo launched the next phase of his campaign. Using Captain Minho's intelligence, he identified the locations of Vroth fleet coordinators, the ships that controlled and directed Vroth forces in each sector. Surgical strikes, Hyunwoo ordered. Ignore the main fleets. Target the coordinators. Pilot Jinho led this campaign. His squadron and a dozen others specialized in deep strike missions. They would jump into a system, locate the coordinator vessel, destroy it, and jump out before the Vroth could respond. Without coordinators, Vroth fleets became disorganized, unable to execute complex maneuvers or coordinate attacks. In the span of 2 weeks, Jinho's squadrons eliminated 12 coordinator vessels. Vroth fleets that had been advancing on Council territory suddenly stopped, their leadership gone, their warriors confused and leaderless. Engineer Hai Wan worked tirelessly to keep the Terran fleet operational. She was 31, a logistics genius who could calculate supply needs in her head and coordinate repair operations across hundreds of ships simultaneously. While Council fleets needed weeks to resupply and repair, Hai Wan's system kept the Terran Armada at full combat readiness. We use modular design, Hai Wan explained to a Council observer who asked how the Terrans maintained such operational tempo. If a weapon system is damaged, we do not repair it. We remove it and install a new module. If a ship's hull is breached, we seal it with prefabricated patches. Our automated repair drones can fix most damage without human intervention. The Council observer was amazed. But this must be expensive. The resources required are worth it, Hai Wan interrupted. In war, time is more valuable than resources. A ship that is repaired in 6 hours can fight 3 more battles while your ship is still in the repair dock. Multiply that across a fleet and the advantage becomes overwhelming. The Terran Armada moved through Vroth space like a scalpel, cutting precisely at vulnerable points. They did not occupy territory or try to hold ground. They struck, destroyed their targets, and moved on. The Vroth, used to frontal assaults and territorial conquest, had no answer for this type of warfare. Over 4 weeks, the Terran Armada recaptured 6 star systems that the Vroth had taken from the Council. They destroyed 12 Vroth fleets in detail, catching them while they were disorganized or undersupplied. They eliminated strategic infrastructure that the Vroth needed to support their war effort, and the Terran casualties remained minimal. 37 ships damaged, none destroyed, 400 personnel injured, 43 killed. By the brutal standards of galactic warfare, these numbers were almost miraculous. But the true victory was psychological. The Vroth Dominion, which had seemed unstoppable for 12 years, was in full retreat. Their warriors, who had never questioned their superiority, now hesitated before battle. Some war leaders began to refuse orders, unwilling to lead their fleets to certain destruction. Empress Zalkara watched her empire crumble. Reports flooded in from every sector. Supply lines cut, fleets destroyed, warriors demoralized. The Dominion was not losing battles. It was losing the will to fight. She called an emergency council of her war leaders. "How do we stop these humans?" she demanded. The war leaders had no answer. They had tried overwhelming force and the humans evaded them. They had tried defensive positions and the humans bypassed them. They had tried repairing their infrastructure, and the humans destroyed it again. "They fight like no one we have ever faced," one war leader finally admitted. "They do not fight for territory or resources. They fight to break us." And they are succeeding. Zalkara realized the terrible truth. The Vroth Dominion had conquered 43 star systems because no one in the galaxy knew how to fight a real war. The Council species were peaceful by nature, their militaries defensive and restrained. But the humans were different. The humans had perfected warfare over thousands of years on a planet that forced them to be warriors. "What do our intelligence reports say about human history?" Zalkara asked. A tactical advisor brought up the data. "Empress, the humans have been fighting wars for their entire recorded history. They have developed hundreds of different military doctrines. They have weapons designed specifically to kill other humans." Lieutenant Jae-hee stared at her intelligence displays in the analysis room aboard the Incheon. She was 26, young for her position, but brilliant at pattern recognition and strategic prediction. For the past 3 days, she had been tracking, Vroth fleet movements, and what she saw made her call Admiral Hyunwoo immediately. "Admiral, the Vroth are mobilizing their home fleet," Jae-hee reported. 2,000 ships gathering at their capital system. And there is something else. Energy signatures suggest Empress Zalkara herself is taking command. Hyunwoo studied the data carefully. Their last reserve. They are betting everything on one decisive battle. "Sir, this is more ships than we have faced before. Much more. Should we pull back and consolidate our forces?" Hyunwoo shook his head. "No. If we give them time, they will adapt to our tactics. If we give them space, they will rebuild their infrastructure. We end this now. Where will they strike?" Jae-hee pulled up her analysis. Based on their previous patterns and current positioning, they will attack Velnaris Prime. It is the capital of the Galactic Council and the most symbolic target. Zalkara wants a victory that will restore Vroth pride and terrify the Council into surrender. When? Based on their mobilization rate, they will arrive at Velnaris Prime in 5 days. Hyunwoo smiled slightly. "Perfect. Then we will be waiting for them." Over the next 4 days, the Terran Armada quietly positioned itself throughout the Velnaris system. Captain Minho's stealth ships placed sensor beacons at every hyperspace entry point. Kinetic bombardment platforms were stationed in high orbit around the outer planets. Fighter carriers hid behind moons and asteroids. The main battle fleet took up position near Velnaris Prime itself, clearly visible and seemingly vulnerable. It was a trap, carefully constructed and perfectly hidden. On the 5th day, the Vroth home fleet emerged from hyperspace exactly where Jae-hee had predicted. 2,000 warships materialized in a massive wall formation, with Empress Zalkara's flagship at the center. It was the largest fleet the Vroth had ever assembled in one place. Zalkara looked at her tactical display and saw the Terran Armada waiting for her. Fewer than 1,000 ships. She felt a surge of confidence. "Finally, they will face us in open battle. This is where we crush them." Admiral Hyunwoo watched the Vroth fleet on his own display. "All ships, stand by. Wait for my command." The 2 fleets faced each other across millions of kilometers of empty space. Neither moved. The tension built as seconds turned to minutes. Zalkara grew impatient. "Advance. All ships. Attack formation. We will overwhelm them with our numbers." The Vroth fleet began to move forward, maintaining their tight formation. They expected the humans to either retreat or meet them in direct combat. Instead, the Terran fleet simply waited. When the Vroth fleet reached the optimal range, Admiral Hyunwoo gave one word: "Now." The trap was sprung. The sensor beacons that Captain Minho had placed suddenly activated, jamming Vroth communications and sensor systems. The Vroth fleet, which relied on centralized command, suddenly found itself unable to coordinate effectively. The kinetic bombardment platforms hidden in the outer system opened fire. Tungsten rods, accelerated by gravity and magnetic fields, fell toward the Vroth fleet at tremendous speed. The Vroth sensors, already compromised by jamming, detected the incoming projectiles too late. 50 Vroth ships were destroyed in the opening seconds, struck by weapons they never saw coming. Then the fighter carriers emerged from behind moons and asteroids, releasing 3,000 fighters in coordinated swarms. Pilot Jin Ho led the first wave, his squadron diving toward the Vroth formation from above. Other squadrons attacked from the sides and below, using 3-dimensional tactics that the Vroth, who thought in terms of 2-dimensional battle lines, could not counter. The main Terran battle fleet opened fire with their full arsenal. Rail-launched nuclear missiles streaked across the void. Electromagnetic coil guns hurled massive slugs. Plasma lances, humanity's own energy weapons, burned through Vroth armor that had already been weakened by kinetic impacts. Zalkara's flagship shuddered as a nuclear missile detonated against its shields. "Return fire," she commanded. "All ships, return fire." But the Vroth fleet was in chaos. Their communications were jammed, their sensors confused, and enemy fighters swarmed through their formation like angry insects. The tight wall formation that should have been their strength became a weakness as ships collided with each other trying to maneuver. Lieutenant Sora coordinated the Incheon's weapons with ruthless precision. "Target the flagship. All batteries, concentrated fire." The Inchin and 5 other dreadnoughts focused their coil guns on Zalkara's ship. Tungsten slugs struck the massive vessel from multiple angles simultaneously. The flagship's shields collapsed. Its armor cracked. Its hull breached in dozens of places. Inside the flagship, Zalkara felt her ship dying. Warriors rushed to seal breaches. Engineers struggled to restore systems, but the damage was too extensive. Another salvo struck, and the flagship's main reactor went critical. "Empress, we must." "Evacuate!" her second-in-command shouted over the alarms. For a moment, Zalkara considered going down with her ship. That would be the warrior's death. But then she realized something important. If she died here, the Dominion would continue fighting until every Vroth was dead. But if she lived, she could end this war and save her people. "Evacuate the flagship," Zalkara ordered. "All nearby ships cover our escape pods." The Empress and her senior staff made it to the escape pods just before the flagship exploded. The massive vessel broke apart in a fireball that could be seen across the entire battlefield. With their flagship destroyed and their Empress evacuating, the Vroth fleet began to break. Some ships tried to retreat. Others attempted to surrender by powering down their weapons. A few, commanded by war leaders too proud to accept defeat, fought on until they were destroyed. Admiral Hyunwoo watched the battle unfold. "All ships, cease fire on any vessel that powers down its weapons. Accept their surrender, but continue to destroy any ship that continues to fight." The battle lasted less than an hour. When it ended, 800 Vroth ships were destroyed or disabled. The rest had either surrendered or fled into hyperspace. The Terran Armada had lost 18 ships and suffered damage to 60 more. By the standards of a battle this large, the casualties were light. But the true victory was not in the ships destroyed. It was in what happened next. Zalkara's escape pod was recovered by a Terran cruiser. She was brought aboard, treated for minor injuries, and then escorted to a communication room. Admiral Hyunwoo appeared on the screen before her. The two leaders studied each other. Zalkara saw a human who looked unimpressive by Vroth standards, small and physically weak, but his eyes held a strength that had nothing to do with size. Hyunwoo saw a warrior who had finally met an opponent she could not defeat. "Empress Zalkara," Hyunwoo said formally, "I am Admiral Hyunwoo of the Terran Armada. Do you wish to discuss terms of surrender?" Zalkara was silent for a long moment. Pride warred with pragmatism. Finally, she spoke. "I must know, how did your species, so young in the stars, become so skilled in warfare? The Vroth have been warriors for 1,000 generations, yet you defeated us in weeks." Hyunwoo considered his answer carefully. "Empress, the Vroth have been warriors for generations. Humanity has been at war for 10,000 years. You conquered because you were stronger than your opponents. We survived because we had to become smarter than our enemies." "You fought each other?" Zalkara asked. "Your own species?" "Yes. For resources, for territory, for ideas, sometimes for reasons no one remembers. We nearly destroyed ourselves many times. But each conflict taught us lessons. We learned strategy, tactics, logistics, intelligence gathering, psychological warfare. We learned that wars are not won by the strongest, but by the most adaptable." Zalkara absorbed this information. "Your homeworld made you this way?" "Earth is a harsh planet," Hyunwoo confirmed. "It taught us to survive against impossible odds. When we reached the stars, we did not forget those lessons. We watched the galaxy and saw species that had forgotten how to fight. We knew, eventually, someone would appear who still knew. The Vroth. And we prepared. You prepared to fight us, specifically. We prepared to fight anyone who threatened peace. The Vroth happened to be that threat." Zalkara felt something she had never experienced before: respect for an enemy. These humans were not just lucky or technologically advanced. They were warriors who understood war on a level the Vroth had never reached. "What are your terms?" Zalkara asked. "Complete disarmament of your military fleet," Hyunwoo said. "Return of all conquered territories to the Galactic Council. Reparations to be paid to the species you attacked. In exchange, humanity guarantees. your security and offers assistance in rebuilding your economy peacefully. And if I refuse? Then the Terran Armada will continue its campaign until the Vroth Dominion ceases to exist. Your people will be scattered, your worlds occupied, your civilization ended. I do not want that outcome, Empress. Do you? Salkara realized she had no choice. The humans had demonstrated they could destroy the Vroth completely if they chose. But they were offering mercy, something the Vroth had never offered their defeated enemies.